southern reaches of the dark continent comes a cuisine rich with history and spices. Welcome to the revelation of South African food, full of the many influences of the Rainbow Nation. Join our food safari to learn exactly what goes into biltong, Cape Malay curry, the best Durban street food, how to make delicious Boboti, discover the secrets of a perfect braai, potjiekos, South Africa's one-pot feast, and a sweet pudding to touch your heart.
South African food is the melting pot at the end of the Rainbow Nation. The cultural divide has been crossed and everybody is now enjoying everybody else's flavours.
Graham Shapiro is a South African-born chef who trained in Ireland, worked across the world and owned an award-winning, much-loved restaurant in Cape Town before deciding to come to Australia to build a safer life for his family. With his wife Robin, he runs a cafe restaurant, Wild Poppy, in Fremantle, a place that pumps all day from breakfast through to dinner.
You got all the sweetie goods, which have been flavoured highly from Asia, but come out of the pots of Europe. And we've got all the spices of Asia entering into all our stewed sort of food. So, because stew is a European thing, curries are an Asian thing, it really came together very easily. The most amount of Indians outside of India are in South Africa. That combined with the Malay and Indonesian influence that came to the Cape, you think of curry. We've got Boboties, we've got the sort of Indian Durban hot curries, we've got Cape Malay, more fragrant curries. So there are different spices. You know, you got, look, as it's labeled, you got a Madras curry, which is clearly Indian related. This will be hotter than something like a leaf masala, which is something like this. And this would be more what you'd use into a Cape Malay style curry or a Bobotie. For sure, if you go to any South African's house and you open up their dry pantry area, this should be there and it shouldn't be full. It'll probably be, you know, near the bottom. Mrs. Ball's is a mixed fruit chutney. It's a bit sweet, it's a bit tart. We have it with all our curries. So whenever we have curries, and we have curries often, we always have a few things that are key on the table. So it's like sliced bananas with coconut, tomato, sambal, and Mrs. Ball's. I would say the biggest staple in South African diet would be this right here, and that's maize meal. We call it Mealy Meal, and it's from a white corn.
Oh, it's very fine, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got the texture of salt. And it's just really cooked with water. As you stir it and work it, it absorbs and absorbs and it becomes quite stiff. So you can relate that to polenta in a lot of ways. We have samp. Samp is a white corn that's dried and cracked.
And what's that cooked into?
Well, now this is cooked into a dish that's called umngqusho. Umngqusho. So umngqusho is samp and beans together.
Now, to an outsider, biltong looks like a really not very yummy thing, but for South Africans, I've insulted you, haven't I?
No, not at all. All cultures have their preserved meats, and this is ours. It is a marinated, salted, dried beef, or ostrich, or springbok, or any other red meat. Biltong is something that we all grow up teething on in South Africa, and I think it's a great way of any child getting its good dose of vaccination.
And when do you eat biltong?
When do you eat biltong? Watching TV. I send the kids to school with some biltong. If I run low on fruit or something, I just put some of that kind of snack in. Watching rugby, you wouldn't watch rugby without biltong. That's against the rules. And then you must know about Boerewors. Boerewors being our famous sausage of South Africa. So we have Boerewors for the braai, and we've got dried Boerewors. It's the same thing. It's dried, just like biltong. It's a lot easier. So,
wow, it snaps.
Very nice.
Biltong has such a strong pull on the heartstrings of South Africans that vegetarians have been known to return to meat because of it. Its history dates back to the early days of white settlement, when it was an essential rather than an indulgence. Johan, what does biltong mean?
Well, biltong's a Dutch word. Bil is derived from rum or a buttock, and tong actually means strip. So it's the strip of the buttock.
Johan de Plooy is one of 5 biltong makers serving Perth's 80-strong South African community. He was a university professor back home, but with a change of country came a change of career and the chance to share some of his family's techniques and recipes with a wide audience.
Every batch that I make with love, and it's different from the previous one. There's a few variables that you would always have to take into consideration, like the weather, the heat, the dryness, the salt. It can all affect on the final product. So we take a chunk of sliced meat and we season it.
What with? That looks an amazing spice mixture.
Most biltong spices will have salt, rock salt, pepper, coriander, and sugar in it. Then we put it in a combination of cider vinegar and the traditional black or white vinegar. And then after 6 or 8 or 24 hours, depending on the taste that you want, you just hang it up. 6 days later, after we hang them, they're ready for eating now. And this is actually the final product. And if we slice it...
Oh, so that becomes this?
This one. We put it through a slicer. And this is what the final product is like. When you start eating it, it's like you don't stop till it is finished. You know?
The spice trade that was dominated by the Dutch East India Company left a huge stamp on the cuisine of South Africa, especially in the beautiful Cape Malay curries that are unique and delicious.
Well, with the Cape Malay, they were all slaves. And they worked for the Dutch and for the British. And they used their spices to boost their meals because the cuisine was so boring.
Hazel McBride's Cape Malay grandmother taught her all about cooking and the joy of bringing family and friends together for regular curry feasts. Wisdom Hazel collected into a book along with recipes from her friends. She called it Just Like It's Lekker, translating from a favourite South African phrase, crikey, it's delicious.
A little bit of oil just to cover the bottom of the pot. Fennel. Just a nice pinch, cumin. When you smell the seeds, your onion goes in. So I'm on a high heat.
So you work fairly quickly?
I do. Golden brown. Just a teaspoon of garlic. The chili.
So 1 bird's eye.
1 teaspoon of coriander. Just going to put a little bit of water, just couple of drops. This is cumin, a little bit of fennel, and garam masala, turmeric. And this is a hot masala, so I'm using
3 heaped spoons.
And this is a medium masala. Water. All the spices are roasted in South Africa. With 3 tomatoes grated. Now the tamarind, a little bit of water, just to separate it from the seeds. Putting in about a teaspoon of salt and sugar. Now you've got to balance your sweet and sour. And I'm using the raw sugar. So now my curry leaves.
Now in India they put it into the hot oil, but you put it into the sauce once it's cooking.
I put it in now. So I'll just take off a few and I just bruise it in my hand. Salt and peppered the fish, and I'm using rockling because it's a firm fish. So, fish is just packed in.
What's the cooking time from here, though? It's pretty quick.
10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Yeah. So just spoon it over, if you can get in.
So you're not actually turning the pieces over?
No. So just gently spooning it over. I'll come back in a few minutes. And your coriander goes in just before you're about to serve.
Hazel serves her curry with fragrant turmeric rice and fresh tomato and cucumber side dishes dressed with coriander and white vinegar. It's heaven. And look at that fish, it's just perfect. And I love that it's the working woman's half-hour recipe.
And that is really very, very quick.
Street food in South Africa is full of dishes you'd never see anywhere else, or well-known foods given a special twist. The best street food is from Durban, a city with the largest Indian population outside the subcontinent, and some inventive cooks who've created new dishes available only in the open air.
Our street food in Durban, we have...
Our being Indian South African.
Yes, Indian South African. We have our samosas, we have our pakoras, we have the bunny chow.
Durban expatriate Dhiren Pillay continues a great tradition from home, cooking Durban street food in a number of Sydney produce markets. So is Durban Indian different from Indian Indian?
Yeah, it is. Things like samosas evolve differently. In India, you won't find the corn, cheese and onion, and you won't find a lot of meat, and that's actually lamb mince because Indians don't eat beef. The veggie we do with potatoes.
That looks delicious.
And we also use some curry leaves there.
Oh, nice.
Shallots and coriander.
And I'm amazed seeing you doing it in mid-air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a neat trick.
It is a neat trick.
And then just start frying away.
Oh.
Ooh. Still warm. What do you get?
Lamb.
I got lamb as well. Oh.
So good. So fresh and crunchy and full of spice. The most famous of the Durban street foods is bunny chow, a spicy curry served in a half or quarter loaf of hollowed-out white bread. In Perth, it's a Friday special at Cafe Vero, where bunny and beer lunches are the rage.
So what we're doing now is we're doing a traditional lamb curry. And when you go and order one in a shop, you just walk away and you say, I'll have a quarter mutton or quarter beans, and I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, I see. And what are you serving today?
So this is a quarter, which would be, that is a half loaf that we order, and then the half loaf gets cut in half. And it's very, very popular with all the South Africans in Perth, and they then come and have their bunnies every Friday with
They're
us.
bunnies.
Yeah, well, no real rabbits were used in the making of this dish.
The origins of bunny chow are quite cloudy, but I believe that when the Indians first came over in the late 1800s and the men went out to work in the sugarcane fields, they didn't have anything to give the man to put the curry in. So they hollowed out the loaf of bread they had the night before, put the curry in, wrapped it in newspaper and sent it out to the gentleman when he went to work with the sugarcane. Then as time evolved, you had the influence of the Gujaratis, known as the Banyas. That's how you got the bunny chow from the Banyas. And they only ate vegetarian food, which was a lot cheaper than meat, so consequently a lot more people could afford it. There you go, that's yours. You take it out the front, sit on a couple of milk crates, then you pull that out, and that's the best bit there.
Oh, yummy. The Cape Malay influence is also behind one of South Africa's favourite dishes, Bobotie.
Boboti is a dish that it's like noodles in Singapore. You know, everyone's got their own recipe, everyone is better than the other one, and my mother adds this and don't add that, and why do you add that first? And so it's always a sort of point of conversation when you're talking about it.
Chef Ross Lusted has headed up the kitchens of a number of top Sydney restaurants before going overseas to travel and consult with a high-end resort chain. He now has his own restaurant, The Bridge Room, in Sydney's CBD. The restaurant serves a couple of South African-inspired dishes, but Ross's favourite dish from his childhood, Bobotie, is one he loves to cook at home.
These coriander seeds, they've been roasted. Double the coriander seeds to the amount of cumin seed, allspice. That can be quite pungent. With a little bit of salt. Ginger, fresh turmeric, garlic, green chilli, so a bit of that. And then a couple of the little really fiery chilies. So everything in. When you pound it, everything combines so that the garlic is going to cook the same time as the turmeric and to the end result.
Ross fries shallots in oil and adds the spice paste.
The chilli, the spices, all the flavours just start to really fill the room.
Then cooks equal amounts of beef and lamb mince.
So something that's got a fair bit of fat in it.
He adds diced apple, a good dollop of Mrs. Ball's chutney, and soaked green raisins.
So we're just going to put a few in there, starting to fry up nicely. This is a nice coarse sourdough.
But the addition of milk-soaked bread, that just gives it a moistness, or...?
I think it binds it. I think it sort of holds it all together. So this is where you add the bread, which becomes ultimately the starch that will sort of emulsify everything and bring that oil back together. So just a couple of eggs. And this is where I think suddenly this dish was Asian and now it's become something else.
Something else.
Just fresh bay leaves, quite strong. All right, oven on about 160. You don't want to split the custard. About 20-25 minutes in the oven. All right, maybe you can see now how that custard has really set beautifully. And cucumber, tomatoes, onions, lime juice, and lots of chilli. This is just a simple grated carrot salad, some young coriander, some raisins. Now, my mother's favourite, you've got to have the banana with it. So these are the nice sweet bananas. I mean, you can add chilli if you like, so there you go. Try all the different condiments.
That's delicious. That is absolutely lovely. Beautiful spiced meat. And
I think it's better than my mum's.
Do you? Better than mum?
No, I better not say that.
One of the real staples in South Africa, especially in the black townships, is a carbohydrate hit called Mealy Meal, made from maize. The smell of it cooking over an open fire is one of the more nostalgic aromas. Mealy pap is a staple dish made by cooking the mealy or white maize flour in boiling water and stirring it into a thick porridge. It's often served with another staple made from samp and beans called umnosho. The dried cracked kernels of white maize or samp are boiled with Bobotie beans for at least 2 hours until very soft.
It's the traditional Zulu or Xhosa meal that we enjoy the most.
And did you grow up eating this?
Definitely.
Vlele Zwane has come a long way from the small town she grew up in KwaZulu-Natal, where umnosho was an adored dish. She now works in Perth running the health and safety department for a large multinational company and loves to prepare a few classic dishes for her children and friends. Vlele heats oil and fries diced onion, then adds 3 colours of capsicum to cook through. Before adding her spices, cassia bark, star anise, cloves and curry leaves.
And the curry leaves, not a lot.
She adds chopped green and red chilies, curry powder and ground coriander.
A bit of coriander. You just keep on stirring on this up until you smell the spices and you just add your samp.
And just some salt?
Yes, a bit of salt.
Ah, so it's almost like a dal.
Yes, yes. It's like a dal. In most cases, you'll prepare it a day before, and then when the following day you enjoy it with chicken or oxtail.
Nice. Cooking outdoors is part of the national identity of South Africans. It dates from the early days when the voortrekkers carried with them cast iron pots or potjies. The ideal way to slow cook meat and vegetables into tender, delicious stews. Each family developing their own sauces and flavours. Rian Bronkhurst brought his potjiekos recipe and enjoys continuing generations-old family traditions.
Potjies would go traditionally from family to family, but in my case I got my own because my father didn't want to let his go. So.
And then there's the delight of cooking a variety of marinated meats and sausages over a fire. Many countries believe they rule the barbecue, and South Africa's no exception. The braai or cookout has been going strong for hundreds of years, ever since settlers moved north and east of Cape Town to open up new territory.
I think it's man's right to make fire and burn meat.
Back to caveman days.
Back to caveman's. It's all about smoke. It's not so
all
much
about smoke,
fire.
isn't it? Restaurant owner Lance Rosen adores flame and the special magic it brings to meat cooked over it. He's made it a lifetime passion, studying up on barbecues, cooking beautiful lunches for his family and friends, and even starting a successful business, Big Boy Barbecue, which features sauces and marinades from his home country. It's rare to cook just one type of meat on the braai. Lance loves to cook the adored Boerewors sausage alongside a Portuguese-style butterflied marinated chicken and sausages, marinated lamb kebabs.
Satay being to skewer, and sauce satay. Sauce is saucy, so you put it in a saucy curry. I'm going to just pop a couple of coriander seeds in here. So you just want to warm it through, release some of the oils. I'm just going to pour that over and some salt. The thing about the ground ginger is it adds a lot of heat to the dish. And a little bit of pepper in equal amounts, and then a few chili flakes. And we just massage it into the meat. Some olive oil, brown sugar, equal amounts with the curry powder, and I use the Paco curry powder for this. And so we add some white vinegar and some malt vinegar. And what I like to do is bring that back up to the boil before I add it over. I put it over warm over the cold meat, which will penetrate the meat a lot quicker.
How fascinating.
I'm going to grab some of the apricots and then the bay leaves, which are from the garden. So I've soaked the skewers in some water so that they don't burn over the coals. I always start with a piece of meat and then a bay leaf. If it's very big, just fold it in half. And an apricot.
So you pack the meat on, it's not a...
Absolutely, it's not a lightly separated thing, so it's ready to go. And then we're going to put the sausages on the end.
This is not a cuisine for vegetarians.
No.
With so many cultures together in South Africa, sweets take on many tastes and textures. Like Cook Sisters, a donut-like sweet which comes in two versions. The Cape Malay uses sweet spices and is rolled in coconut. The Afrikaner version is plain and platted and drenched in syrup. Milk tart is also a huge favourite, using a custard filling. And then there's the easiest pudding ever, malva pudding.
It's sort of steeped in mystery as to the name. It's either relating to marshmallow from the texture of the steamed pudding that it is, or it's from a Malvernian wine, which they would have a tipple with their sweets. We've got sugar, softened butter, start with it soft. Got apricot jams going in there. Put that in there. So we're just going to beat this until it's pale and creamy and good. I really want to amalgamate the egg yolks and the sugar. I'm just going to add our vinegar into here, milk and vinegar. I'm using a vanilla paste or concentrate. Nothing like real flavors, so I'm just mixing it through. Now this goes a little bit dark, but that's because of the type of vanilla paste I'm using. We've got some flour, also bicarb of soda. And that goes. A pinch of salt. For me, that's a pinch. All right, so in we go. I'm going to go and do this in thirds. Milk and vinegar.
Oh, look at all those seeds. Don't miss out on those. Wow.
Now, you'd never think this is going to turn into a pudding.
No,
you know what I mean?
It looks far too runny.
And this is the thing, you make this and then you look at it and you go, this isn't working, and there's no hotline to call, is there? So this is how it's supposed to be, as runny as that. All right, so I'm just going to cover the top of this, which is in the center.
How long is it cooked for?
I'll check it on 40 minutes, so it could be up to 45 minutes. Next is the sauce. A little bit of water. Some butter. Some butter's going in there. Get that out of there. And sugar. Some cream. I'm just going to stir that in. That's it. I mean, you couldn't get
So you let that
easier.
simmer for how long?
I'm just going to bring it to a simmer, make sure the sugar is dissolved, and that's it. You keep both things warm, and then the sauce will soak in a lot better.
Look at that.
So it's quite spongy, you know. It's like a steamed brandy type pudding.
It is. It's a treacly steamed pudding. It's
If you're not into
beautiful.
alcohol, this is the one to go for.
Oh, it's lovely. It's bouncy.
Yeah, it's bouncing.
It's beautiful.
On our next food safari, the fresh colour of Lao cooking. Green papaya salad, grilled ox tongue, learn about Lao laksa and the secrets of a great lao.